Morning, morning, morning. Yes, we are here. We are here. Shout out to everybody that's coming in the building. Um, the live-a-thon is in full effect. Yes, it is. The live-a-thon is in full effect. So basically, we're going to get into some things, to help us deal with situations that nobody wants to face. We're going to start talking about, the situation in which is real. It's inevitable. You can't stop it. You cannot stop. No one has the ability to stop time. So this is what we're going to be dealing with. No one has the ability to stop time. No one can control, you know, life expectancy. No one, knows the date, time, or anything. Just you don't know. But the question is, if you did know, would you be ready? You know, and that's death, you know, and it's a funny thing. I've always seen movies that talked about people living and dying, and the craziest thing is that when it comes down to it, people say they aren't afraid to die, but they never experienced it before. So how do they know? You know, so that's like the biggest thing that we're going to be talking about today is the funeral, the passing, the feelings, the emotion, you know, because when it come down to it, it's a touchy subject for people to talk about far as, you know, passing. This something that nobody wants to, charter those waters because of the unknown, you know, and that's the thing. You got to be prepared for it. You know, at some point I'm going to pass, and the key things that you want to touch on is take care of yourself now, and that's the main focus. You know, um, I want to highlight two basics: your health and finance. You know, and that's the biggest struggle with most people. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be your health and your finance. When dealing with funeral arrangements and stuff like that, a lot of people, sad that the situation has occurred. And the crazy thing, I actually went to a funeral yesterday. One of my good friends for years, his grandmother passed, you know, and I knew her like family to the extent that when it came down to it, you know, just right on board with it, you know, that a lot of family was there, a lot of friends was there, you know, they all came, from Miami, just mainly all over, but most of the family was in Miami, came all up for the funeral. And, you know, everybody was there, talking, having a good time, just fellowshipping. And to an extent, it was all like a family reunion, you know. Everybody got together, talking, laughing, joking, just literally having fun, talking about good times, talking about the memories, talking about, everything about the joy in which they had. But when it came down to it, you know, had an issue that someone had passed, and that we don't want to keep having this reoccurring thing. That's like in my family, we used to have family reunions, but now that the older generation who always enforced it are gone, a lot of them are not. The younger generation is not doing that, And I've always talked about family now being, somewhat of a loner situation to where nobody wants to deal with other family members, but their kids, maybe their brother and sister. It's starting to turn into like a loner situation to where you only depend on, the people in your circle. And that's a real problem. You know, that's why the communities are not being built the way they should be, because in all, we only deal with people in our house, you know, brothers and sisters, maybe aunties, nope, uncles, maybe grandmothers, to an extent, if you still have that respect. If you have respect for your grandparents and they did you right, and to a degree, you will have that level of respect for them. But everybody else, you don't have to respect them, But like I said, with this new generation, they hardly respect grandparents, and that's a major issue, especially in my family. My kids know anybody that they meet as an adult, yes ma'am, no ma'am. If not auntie or uncle, yes ma'am, no ma'am. And that's the situation in which a lot of kids are not growing up having respect. But we're gonna go ahead and get into the topic at hand, you know, the funeral, the sad occasion, you know, and I'm gonna touch on this finance for a little bit starting off, but it's like I always say this: the the GoFundMe is the new fish fry. The GoFundMe is the new fish fry, because when it comes down to it, a lot of people not saving, for their future. A lot of people not putting money aside for their funeral. You know, the crazy thing, the funeral I went to, my friend's grandma, she knew she was gonna pass. And so she started anticipating things that she wanted done. She started anticipating things that need to be handled, as far as the funeral. She started, planning things out. I want this done. I want this to look a certain way. I want that. I want this. For things to, be right, she had a situation to where, everything was planned out to a degree, you know, and money situation, you know, that was just the tip of the iceberg. With family members there, they had all the chance to try to gather it up, and it's crazy that my wife, her grandmother is 93 years old. She birthday was same as Martin Luther King, January. So they said that she'll live to be 100. You know, even though she has her struggles to the point where, just being old, things about older people dealing with aches and pains, but the love of seeing her grandkids always, warms her heart. All her grandkids, all the great grandkids, she's about to be fourth generation great grandmother. And I was like, man, that's a wonderful thing. That's like with me, my granny was one of the main ones that taught me how to cook. Man, I love that old lady so much. And the biggest thing up when she passed, she told me this. I was sad that I didn't go to the funeral, but the biggest thing that I remember her telling me was, don't remember me for all the bad. Remember me for the good. Because in the end, she said, if I leave this world, I'm going to be happy. I don't have no more pain. I don't have no more issues. So what are you sitting here crying and worrying about me for? She said, remember me for the good. And that's why I never understand coming into funerals a lot. Why are we sad? This person ain't in no more pain. This person has nothing to lose, nothing to gain. That person is at peace, you know? And that was one of the things that she gave me when I had sit there and remembered going looking back at her funeral, her life. I had so much joy with her. Why I'm gonna take this one day and diminish all the good that came about dealing with her. So then I started thinking, I said, okay, I'm always remember the good. I'm not gonna remember the bad when it comes to funerals. Even though this is a day that, you passed and stuff, but in the end, look at the great life you live, the things that you did for, the family. I'm gonna focus on that. And that's what she told me, to focus on that. But going into the situation now at hand, I'm gonna just go ahead and talk about uh far as health starting off. When it come down to it, a lot of people, before you get to the funeral, before you take that last ride or last breath, there's some things that, prepare yourself to, live a better, longer life. Because we all want to live long, but to an extent, we have to prepare ourselves for it. So focus on our health is key, you know, dealing with exercising, taking care of yourself, eating right, and Lonzo, far as in the live-a-thon, uh, Pretty Saucy Leo, she's gonna be before you, and then you come after her in the live-a-thon. So everybody that don't know, we actually doing a live-a-thon with Dovey and Sheila. They have put a live-a-thon together, and I'm actually the 9 o'clock in the live-a-thon. So far as that, this is going to be the next schedule. I will have to end up see who's going to be at 10, and I'll pull that up. Hopefully Sheila have this set up. Matter of fact, I need to actually go get another device so I can mod some people up. Okay, but yeah, when it comes down to it, basically I'm in the schedule of the live-a-thon, and like I said, click back on it. All right. So Sheila would probably give me a notice by then, or Lisa, to see who's next. Cause, well, the way they had it scheduled last night, I don't know what Dobie did this morning. I was supposed to have the 9, and she was switching to 10 with somebody else because she had 9 open, and I gave Alonzo the 11 and everything. But with uh, Pretty Saucy Leo, she was going to be doing a 15-minute and then go from there with Alonzo. But we'll work it out. If anything, I'll go ahead and stay a little longer. And, if someone else pulls up, then so be it. It won't be a problem for me. Oh man, I was talking so much and I had the mute on. But basically taking care of yourself is the key, man. So when it comes down to it, you know, there's a lot of situations to where people always go through scenarios, and I wish I could have did this, I should have did that. And it likes to make themselves be better. But ultimately in the end, it's kind of too late. When a situation occurs, you got to always be ready for things, and a lot of people are not prepared for it because you know just generally the way of life. It comes a time where some people have to step up to the plate even though they don't want to, you know even in the families. relationships with others, we have situations to where, a lot of us always go through things. A lot of us don't have a way out because, when it comes down to it, we're fighting a situation with somebody else and, just not even apologizing, and you carry this weight on your heart for so long, and you get to the end, whether you pass or especially what they pass, you never forgave them. You never had that sit down. It all could have been a misunderstanding. I'm going through that now with a friend in my life. We've been friends for years. It was a situation happened, to the extent in which I looked at it as being bad. He looked at it maybe being nothing, you know, but time heals all wounds. And so, I'll have that conversation with him later, but not right now, you know, but if time don't permits, it just don't permit. So have a lot of people start getting their affairs in order and start looking at things overall to work on things. But especially with finance, man, the issue with finance, I always talk about this: life insurance. Like, it's gonna come a time when you pass, you need that life insurance. you know it it's nothing wrong with having a GoFundMe account, but have it to prepare for things. You don't want to depend on somebody else burying you. Because if you wasn't a pleasant person for people to deal with, you might not get any money. And that might be something that you gotta deal with. Even if you do get money, you might not get enough. You know, and shout out to Alonzo. Alonzo did a video. He was talking about this situation where a guy, he gave a quote for insurance that he wanted to go ahead and just buy crypto, and he didn't want to go ahead and get life insurance. And it was to the serious point that he was trying to tell him reconsider. You know, the same amount of money he was putting in the crypto, for 2 weeks, which was $100. The guy was putting a minimum 50 bucks a week in crypto. And to take that 50 and to go ahead and just say, I'm gonna go ahead and just give this to, this guy for life insurance. He didn't want to do it. He just think like, it was more important. The guy had his own business, had a magazine, had some other business ventures on the side, had invested in crypto, like I said, far as he might have had investments in the market far as the stock. Got nice house, a brand new, or late 2000 some truck, fully loaded. I think he called it the King Ranch edition. That was for I think it's a F-250, F-150, but it was the package edition. So that ran them a little more. But in the end, he sit up there and focus mainly on having that good lifestyle and everything, and didn't focus on the life insurance. Needless to say, the guy died 2 years later. Died 2 years later. Okay, I'm gonna drop the link for Sheila and go ahead. She has something to say. Sorry for a minute. I'm gonna let Sheila come up. But like I said, the guy ended up dying like 2 years later. And at the time, his daughter was 17 years old. you know. And when his daughter died at 17, that was a situation, you know, to where it just let her shook. And, the mother wasn't with the father. I know the situation of that. But all I know, the daughter was, you know, graduating from high school. Dad passed, you know, there was a situation to, getting affairs in order. Father had no life insurance. So she started a GoFundMe account, and it was scheduled for $10,000. Hey, Sheila.
Good morning. So you know what? Ain't nobody coming on after you. So you and Alfonso, y'all go ahead and rock with it. If y'all you whatever you want to do until 11, y'all go ahead and do what you have to do if you got time, because ain't nobody after you at 10 o'clock. So instead of me taking it, I'll let y'all two go ahead and do what y'all have to do. If you want to open up the piano, however you want to do it the way you want to do it. We just stay here.
All right, I might sit there and bring Alonzo and some people up
Yes.
for a minute, but
Okay.
uh we still gotta let pretty saucy Leo do her part because
She's
she's
pretty saucy. Come on at 11.
yeah,
Yeah. So you got it into 11.
and then Alonzo comes on after her again.
Yeah, he can. Yes.
So I guess he'll stay on my channel for a minute, and then we'll
However
work
you
at
want to
that.
do it. See, however you want to do it.
Okay,
Okay. All right. Okay. So
okay,
I'm in the. I got you. Okay.
all right. So Alonzo, I'm gonna let you pull up if you want to, but yeah, with the situation at hand, when it came down to it, it was just a crazy situation to where you know she was trying to take care of her dad at funeral arrangements, and she started a GoFundMe account. And to the degree she might have got it, she might have got it. But preventative maintenance. Why not put that money aside now? And it was to the degree when me and Lonzo was talking about this situation to where, when it came down to it, like literally her like with the daughter with the crypto, investing in Bitcoin and stuff like that. The daughter didn't have the code to the phone or access to his account. She couldn't get none of the money in there. So that was just another crazy situation to where, if anything went down and she needed the money, she wasn't able to get it due to not having access to the account. Alonzo, he had a good breakdown. One video he had, and it made me really reflect because I had all my life insurance policies all in one place for my wife. I have one of those accordions, like they call it, the slots where to file your paperwork in. Because I used to have a file cabinet and a file box, but a lot of my stuff I can put it, consolidate into one of those small accordions. And it came down to it to where I said, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put everything in here and have everything set up, but I never put nothing else in there far as like business wise or more personal than that. Like my wife, she knows my PIN codes to my account, and if not, she has access to the accounts, no problem. You know, but like far as different passwords and this is a plug for this app that I use. One of my friends, he's in the government, and he actually gave me this app called LastPass, to where you have one password that accesses all the passwords to different, stuff. So you might want to check that out. But set everything up as a secondary to where you can access through your emails. If you lose that, if you forget about that password. So it's a great app for a lot of people. You might want to look at that. But LastPass, real good. But when it come down to it, I end up writing down passwords to my certain accounts that I have, because me and my wife, this is another thing that, as far as me and my wife do with finance and planning, we have Google. We have a family email, and my family email pretty much has everything regarding doctor's appointment, dentist, scheduling for the kids, access to different websites to pay bills, different bills that are due, all on that family email. We have our own personal emails, business emails, and then we have the family email, and it just makes it more easy. And both of us have that access on our phone to where if anything, when it come down to it, we already know. We have it set up to where if, something has come up or a bill is due, any one of us can pay it. The passcodes on that thing, abbreviated, and we know what the abbreviations are. So even if somebody do get our phones, to a degree, it's only so much they can do. But try to pay a bill, they know the username, they probably know the email and stuff, but it's a breakdown from there. And when it come down to it, though, I mean, it's convenient for me and my wife to do that. So just food for thought for people as far as that. But yeah, I start writing down all my business endeavors because I deal with a lot of guys and work with them, and we might do little short business contracts, or we might do long-term business contracts. I got one pretty much a good long one right now, and a couple of short-term contracts with some people. So as far as when it come down to it, I wrote all those down. How much money was to be received, what's the length of the contract, and from that point. And a lot of people, you lost. You probably gave somebody $5,000 or $2,000, and they expected to pay it back. But if you pass, you don't got to pay that money back because the family members probably don't know about this. It's just probably between you and this person, and now they holding on to the money now. And when it come down to it, you got to have that understanding that financially wise, everything far as the money, needs to be taken care of, And like I said, I speak about life insurance for generational wealth, but the planning, the knowledge is the key. I went to one Alonzo Hall luncheon that he had virtual, and they had a lot of great speakers. And I always go back to this lady that she was a trust lawyer, and she talked about how having a young guy had got $3.4 million from the parents when the parents passed. They had everything set up, and the guy got the money, and he was broke within a year and a half. Bought a Ferrari, bought a house, and just was throwing parties, going trips back and forth to Dubai, and he had the money. So we can't say, yeah, we don't leave our kids. I mean, this guy had the money, but the problem was he didn't have the knowledge. And, I've said this before. A lot of people heard me on Lisa's channel that, giving a baby, it's like giving a baby a gun, a loaded gun. Eventually that baby's going to figure out how to pull that trigger. And like, it's just horrible. Giving somebody that much money and don't know what to do with it, it's a disaster, and that's what it comes to with a lot of people having the issue of, just a disaster, just having all this money and don't know how to properly, okay, I'm gonna invest some of this money, I'm gonna pay these things off, I'm gonna be debt free. There's a show I watched, The Curse of the Lottery, and that's a crazy, I mean, it shows the curse of all the people who got the lottery, and it broke them. Then also they have the one where the lottery changed my life, to where people had lottery winnings and took advantage of things in life, started business, just plethora of companies. One guy had a sanitation company. He started out of, he dealt with trash all the time. So he started his own company, you know. There was one guy overseas. This guy was in, I think, the UK. Guy hit the lottery for so much money, young kid, 19 years old. And now he don't have anything, you know? So it's like if you don't have the knowledge to go along with it, big problem. Big problem, you know. And that's like the biggest thing that's facing our community, you know, is the knowledge, the finance. The finance is a given, but the knowledge is one thing. If you don't have the knowledge how can you obtain anything? That's one of the biggest parts a lot of us, we go through with, life is just the knowledge of doing things. I guarantee you, it's very few in the chat right now where their parents sit down. They taught them how to pay a bill, but they didn't teach them about savings. They didn't teach them about the stock market. They didn't teach them about interest rates, credit cards, obtaining credit cards, what a credit actually used for, how to fix their credit. One of my good friends, he told me, he said his mom told him, if you're going to get a credit card, don't use it. She said that was the best knowledge his mom gave him. Credit is gold if you know what to do with it. I don't know what to do with it, so I can't teach you. Because all I know, if you mess up your credit, you mess up a whole lot of life. And I mean, it was crazy, like having that situation, you know. And it was just a situation. I was like, man, that's all she told you. He's like, yep, that's it. She didn't teach me nothing else about credit, but it's good. Don't get it because you're gonna mess it up. So he never got a credit card. He never knew about it. Guy was like in his 30s to where he really started find out about credit and finance. Everything he bought was cash. Got an apartment to an extent, cash. Did use his debit card, put it all on the account because before guys they didn't want to deal with banks. That was something that they didn't want to deal with. When it come down to banks, nah, gonna take your money. You're not taught properly how to use credit. And I look at a lot of documentaries and look at a lot of different shows. Vice is one of my best that I watch. But I was listening to this guy. Actually, to be honest, he was a scammer. He's a rapper and he was a scammer. This guy stole like $60 million from Citibank. Got 2 years in jail because it was a blue collar crime, but ended up doing 5 years, additional 3 years because he got caught with a cell phone and a laptop. But the guy got out, and I mean, his credit was so immaculate to the point where he couldn't get nothing in his name. That was one of the stipulations. When he got locked up, like it was to a degree that they never seen a criminal with A1 credit. Because he said every time he wanted to buy something, with the way you scam, you can't use cash. I mean, you can't use credit. You got to use cash. So it's like untraceable. But you can't go in the bank. You can't go anywhere with over $10,000 and not be suspicious. So him learning how to use credit was a better way of doing it, to the point where his credit score was so high and it scared him. Like everything like he has now, this guy's out. All his credit is pretty much in his name. This guy, I mean, far as his credit is in his business name. Like his personal, he can't use any personal credit. He has to use all business credit because, like I said, that was one of the stipulations when he got out of jail. He can't put nothing in his name. As far as with credit wise, if he don't pay to an extent with cash, he can't have it. But with a business, he can still use it as far as with business wise. And Dr. Dunbar, we have a situation to about 10 o'clock. If you want to come up and say something for a minute and promote your channel, because no one came up at the 10 o'clock mark. So if you want to come up and display some things on your channel, if you want to, I'll give you a little bit of that time, because I know he was wanting to get on here. I talked to Dobie to try to get you on the schedule and everything with Sheila, but it's getting piled up. So we're gonna try to see if we can set some things up to get you ready for next week. But if you want to come up and talk a little briefly about your channel, I'm actually talking about finance and health and far as funeral arrangements, but you know, going in and out of the topic. But just leaving that open. I'm gonna be off at 11. Then we're gonna go to Pretty Saucy Leo, and then Alonzo's gonna be after her. But shout out to you. All right, back to us. All right, but basically, when it come down to it, you just have those situations. See, that's why I don't like going in the chat. Just lost my thought real quick. But yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. I'll reel it back in. All right. So basically, when it comes down to these arrangements, as far as your money and the funerals, like I said, life insurance is the big key. Yeah, if you pass, that's big key. You know, I mean, nowhere around it. You can save the money all day, but you're not going to accrue that much interest on your money unless you put it into something. You know, in my opinion, even with 401ks and the IRAs, they're decent. But with your 401ks and IRAs, you still have that issue of losing money when the market crash. So, you got to look at that and have that, as another thing. And that situation. So, but like I said, there's nothing wrong with gathering, things right now, as far as with life insurance. That's the ticket. You can't lose, in my opinion. That's why I always tell people, weigh your option. You know, talk to your agent and let them know, hey, we have one right here, Alonzo. But know your options. And see, that's the biggest thing with a lot of people. They scared of, the cost, and, find out your options. See what you can afford. That's the biggest thing. A lot of people, the unknown scares people because they don't know. And the point of it is, you never know unless you try. You never know unless you ask. So finding the first step and, knowing the situation is going to ask and figure out some things, and, having an understanding, what are your options? Can I afford this? Can I not afford this? And that's the biggest thing. We struggle in our community with having the issues of, lack of knowledge. That's the biggest thing, lack of knowledge. And like I said, I go back into the family. If you don't know, ask. Ask for help. That's like one of the biggest things. Having the whole scenario back in the day where they used to say, if you want to keep something from somebody, you put it in a book. Understanding this, that everything is on the internet. You can look up in and everything. So why aren't people taking advantage of it? I'm talking about literally, as far as I'm doing handyman work, most of the videos on YouTube, I look up forums they have where they talk about these things, fixing cars, just all on the internet. You have books. Amazon has Kindle to where you can actually download books. You don't have to have the physical copy. Shout out to Shannon Ross. Like, I watch his channel all the time. He breaks down these books. He had the was it the P90X thing, or I forgot, I think it was the Extreme or Fit. Guy did it every morning at 9 o'clock Eastern time, but 6 o'clock out in Cali Pacific. Like, I'm like, at 9, when you doing it at 6 in your time, it's 9 my time. I'm at work. I come in on it Saturdays, and I would do it Saturdays, and now I have a bike to where, I can go ahead and run my bike now. He's telling me to get a bike. He said, she got to get these kids fit. You know what I'm saying? And this is a guy on YouTube. I socialize with on YouTube. There's guys on YouTube I actually have their numbers and I talk to them and everything. But this guy mainly strictly on YouTube. You just like, hey man, your health is your wealth, And he started getting me back on my vitamin regimen. You know, he's telling everybody on his panels, hey, if you're over 30, you need to be taking vitamins. He said at 25, 20 at best, but still, if you're over 30, there's no reason why you're not taking multivitamins. And I was like, man, I've been off my vitamins for years. I used to love this one vitamin. It's liquid. The guy down here in Atlanta, what's his name? Nathaniel Barner from the Barner Brothers Hair Care Products. They have the Barner Brothers show down here in Atlanta as far as the hair. Um, yeah, like that's one of the things that this guy he's a chemist, I think. And he designed this nutritional vitamin supplement, you know, and it's liquid. It's called Miracle 2000. Like I literally was religiously taking that stuff like I'm talking about, like I said, every single, know what I'm saying, day. So much health, took care and, just it's expensive, but the point of it is like that liquid, like he said, it gets to you faster. All those minerals, all those vitamins packed in there. You got to keep it in the refrigerator. It's not like the shelf life ones that, it packed all that stuff into a little pill. And, religiously, like I'm back on my pills now, taking them. Um, it's a little cheaper, but it's convenient to grab it and go. Even if I don't take it at home, I can just grab the bottle, throw it in the car, throw it in the bag or whatever, and just go on out the door. Take a pill, I'm driving, eating or whatever. But vitamins, if you're over 30 and not taking vitamins, you're not getting the proper nutrition. Most people don't even eat the necessary vegetables every day. You know, like that's the thing. A lot of people don't eat vegetables. I know a guy. This guy probably I think it was 32 when he just started eating zucchini, squash, things that you were forced to eat as a kid. 32 just start, and he loves this stuff now. Like that's why I always laugh at these adults with kid like mine saying that they don't eat vegetables. Like you can't just eat meat. You have to have a balanced diet. I mean, so for one, if you're not having a balanced diet, you need the vegetables and you also need the vitamins. You know, that's the key. Hey, like Bruce, shout out to Bruce, shout out to um the grinder, underrated, the number one grinder, shout out to Big Duke. These guys have their channels focused on health regimens. Bruce was into the boxing, but he was into fitness. It's a bodybuilder, but doing all things in regards to keeping his health in order. He was a trainer. Bruce did what it take to get his people in line, but the thing of it was, no one was gonna listen to somebody that was, kind of out there and didn't have their body in order. To an extent, if you can't do a push-up and you're my trainer, then that's gonna be an issue for me. And having that to the point where you have to have an understanding of, yourself, working out, taking care of yourself is the key. You know, shout out to everybody that's coming in. You know, a lot of people have issues with taking care of themselves. Over time you get lazy, get complacent. That's everybody. But you have to stay the course, especially the older you get, the more you need to take care of yourself. And that's one of the biggest things that a lot of people are dealing with, taking care of themselves, you know. And that's our biggest fault. You know, we have so many issues that are going on in our lives. We feel as if we don't have time for everything. And what it does, that's when we get to the point of health issues. That's when we get to the point of, falling out and passing out, having to go to the hospital, start having these other, illness because we're not taking care of ourselves. You know, that's like the biggest fault, not taking care of yourself. You know, that's the biggest thing that I keep trying to encourage people to do. Like I said, I changed my whole channel around. Like my channel was basically focused on trying to get men, you know, within we say the manosphere, to look at the brighter side of things. Like I tell guys, yeah, I'm associated with a lot of guys in the manosphere because that's most of the guys I talk to and I be around those guys. But you know, I don't consider myself manosphere. Even with me being a married man, 15 years, you know, a lot of stuff that they talk about, I've already moved in my life, but it's a lot of stuff that they talk about. It's not the balance in my life. My life is balanced. My wife, she's awesome, awesome lady. You know, I respect her highly. You know, I wouldn't have never married her if I didn't respect her. I didn't love her. I didn't cherish her. I want her and the kids to have a good life. That's why I got this life insurance. I tell you all this before. Like my wife literally gets on me about having too much life insurance. And this is basically how you know I have too much life insurance. We were paying car notes on her car. And it got to a point where, we was gonna get another car. And just looking at, all the stuff that was going on, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's where all the money's going, money going into life insurance. So my wife was like, cut it out. Just go get one policy. And I was like, if I go get one policy, yeah, that's cool, but it's not where I want to be. It's not where I want to be. I want to have it to where, you know, I have everything set up. All my stuff will be taken care of. A lot of people don't realize that, I want to have my kids taken care of with no problems. Literally no problems. To where if anything do occurs, they good. My wife, if anything occur in my wife's life, she good. you know, and the situation at hand, a lot of people, you know, they wait to the last minute. You know, I don't want to say, man, yeah, man, my wife had it hard. You know, I mean, well, not just say me, but say a family member, somebody started talking about how their wives or situations had it hard because them. Well, I'd say their mom. Let's say your mom had it hard because your dad didn't plan, didn't prepare for the future, was spending all the money. You know, either or, even with a man dying. My wife, she got life insurance on herself. You know, not much as me, but I told her that just have something. Something to bury you and a little extra money, to put into the house or for the kids. That's it. With me, I'm gonna be okay. You know, I wanna focus more on you. I wanna focus more on you. Because when it come down to it, I'm gonna be okay. I want to make sure the kids being taken care of, you being taken care of. So I'm gonna devote getting more life insurance. I already told Alonzo, I'm already at a 500,000. I'm gonna get to $1 million. I already have one policy. Within a couple of years, I'll hit my mark and pass it with my universal life. But my thing is, I want to be $1 million on paper. That's what I'm trying to bridge the gap for generational wealth. And then when I hit that million on that other policy, then I'm have 2 million. I already know right now with my one life insurance expectancy, if I live to be 78, I have $3.4 million in that policy. At the current rate that I'm paying right now, and interest rate at that time when I got that policy, that's it, 3.4 million at 73. But my thing is this, I'm gonna be putting more money into my policy. That's why I'm trying to be in a position to change jobs because I want to put more money into it. My thing is, I'm going to start getting apartments. Like by the time I get into my retirement age, close to my 50s and 60s, I'm trying to retire early, go grab me some apartments, take those apartments, make money in America, and I'm gone. My wife's from Jamaica. I told her we're gonna in a couple of years we're gonna start saving money aside to go buy land and build a house over there. That could be our vacation house, stay over there. I know a guy I was talking to does business with. This guy, he has property over in St. Thomas. He has about I think 6 villas over there. Overview of the ocean and stuff like that. I mean, immaculate. He was showing them to me and stuff, and I was like, man, that is crazy. When it come down to it, like he planned everything out. 3 kids over here in the States. Guy went and bought a house cash. He's selling this high rise that he had, crazy, $500,000 on the 30th floor, right across from Lenox Mall in Atlanta. For people that know where about Atlanta and Lenox Mall, the Buckhead area, you know, upper echelon area. And he went down the street and just bought a townhouse. That was the place he was just gonna retire in. He didn't even really stay there. The guy stays in St. Thomas. He keeping the house over here for his kids. Like this is the motivation. This is what he was planning for all his life. These are the things that he was doing in order to have a good life. Now that his kids are grown, he have grandkids. He only keeping that house so when he come here, he don't have to stay with his kids. He don't have to bother them, interrupt their life, their scheduled program, and doing it for the kids. That's my thing as well. To where if I do want to have my grandkids to do something, I'm gonna do it. I was talking to a guy and he was saying, why not when our kids get married, why we don't give them like about 10, 20,000 so they can either put on a house, take a vacation and do something, whatever they're going to do with that money, they do with it. But by you training them in the right manner, in the right way, they're not going to squander that money. They're going to do something great with it. What's going on, Lonzo?
What's happening? She doing all right?
Yeah, man. Let me finish up real quick.
Yeah.
But, when it comes down to it, a lot of people are failing to grasp the concept, of the next generation. That's the biggest thing. We having a struggle with the next generation because in that next generation, saving that money, putting that money aside, having that rainy day fund, having money set aside for the future. You know, this no life that you only live once is spilling over to the older generation. I heard Steve Harvey say something that hurt me real bad. He sit there and said that he's spending 85% of his money because his kid's not getting nothing, you know. But yet he had talked to one of his friends and he said his friend literally has, put aside $500,000 for 3 of his kids. 500,000 for 3 of his kids. I think it was 500,000 or five whatever. But the point of it was a mass amount of money for his kids and percentages in his business. Say the guy's a billionaire. So it could have been more money. I'm just like, just the whole thing of even just having 500,000 already put aside. That's not even counting the life insurance. That's not even counting the business that he invested in. Doing that for your kids, just starting in the middle of the race, than just starting at the starting point. You already have an advantage over everybody else. You probably 10 meters from the finish line. Imagine yourself being one of the, at the time, bankers, the dad of somebody passing, and you literally inherit $30 million as a 16 or 18-year-old, and you know what to do with that money. You're more well off than the average 40, 50, 60-year-old that's already into their career. But what's going on, Alonzo?
I'm doing good, man. I just came up to show some love, show some appreciation to you and everyone for putting me out there. But I also wanted to speak back to kind of what you was talking about in terms of the planning. And the reason I want to talk about the planning, so we actually learned some stuff recently. Part of me being the top annuity salesman is because we look at life insurance as just passing on wealth, which it is. But for example, Laser Panda, you know the guy that you and Rod introduced me to.
Yeah.
He just sold a house, and he's paying basically $0 in taxes because he came to me and we put the money in places so that he's not going to be taxed on it. And this was a couple of $100,000. So there's also ways in with which, and I'm actually reading a book, The Power of Zero, where it's using life insurance way more than just, and I'm mad because it's a concept that I've been teaching a while, the infinite banking. But there's also another way that you can use life insurance as a tax shelter. Remember, I always run around talking about modified endowment contracts. So the book I'm reading right now is actually talking about all that. And me and Marty actually just we just tax sheltered him. When he sold the house, I spoke with his accountant because I was like, listen, if he puts this money here, it's tax free. He was like, really? Are you sure? Can you talk with my accountant about that? Spoke with his accountant. His accountant was like, that's a great idea. So, I think that's a good idea as well, is to learn that type of stuff.
Yep.
And even like when you were mentioning, I heard you was mentioning my buddy who died, and the daughter, she did put out the GoFundMe. She put a $10,000 GoFundMe out on Facebook. She got a total of $600 since 2020. Or I'm sorry, since 2021 of May when he died. She got a total of, and this is as of today, she got a total of $600 from donations. Everybody, oh, we love him. That's our guy. He put us on. He put on the rapper Cash Doll from Detroit. He had her in his magazine, and that's part of the reason that she became as famous as she is. So, to have that, and even simply, I was like, listen, you need to tell these young girls who are, making large quantities of money, being basically, adult entertainment models. They have, like, I really want to work with, like, and this is going to sound quote unquote nasty, if you will, but I want to work with like strippers and stuff because they're underserved and they get large quantities of money. I tried to look at like, dudes who may have been on the wrong side of the tracks, but unfortunately their money's not legit and it's really not substantial enough to come into this field. But when you look at things like strippers, like I know a girl out in Atlanta who has 2 mansions because she was working at, I think it was Starlets or King of Dot, whatever the strip club that's real famous in Atlanta. It wasn't 112.
It's the Blue Flames, but the King of Diamonds in Miami.
Okay. So yeah, I guess she was a dancer at the Blue Flame. She had 2 mansions.
I'm sorry, it's Magic City, not Blue Flame, Magic City.
Magic City, whatever. I don't do strip clubs, so I don't know what.
Yeah, I don't know. So
I
try to keep up with them, but I don't do it.
Yeah. How's it going? So I look at that and I'm like, wow, these ladies could actually be served very well if someone would take the time and talk to them and teach them about it. Because they do get large quantities of money fairly fast, and they aren't protected in terms of you can only kind of do that work for a short period of time, right? After a while, it's going to be they're going to looks fade, right? So after a while, folks are going to be like, hey, get out of that field. but there will be something at least for them to sit on. And actually, me and Marty went over this because now he's in a predicament where he's put a lot of money away, and he wanted to come on live with me, and he's willing to do so because he was like, yeah, listen, man, tell the fellas, in this space about this, because as well as I do, Sheed, and I don't want to derail the show, but a lot of guys will talk about gold diggers. And he was explaining, listen, you guys aren't putting yourself in a position to even have any gold to dig. So why are we looking at gold diggers? This guy, like I said, he makes $150,000 a year. And, but he doesn't drive like a Bugatti or anything. He drives a freaking, like a 06 car, right? Meanwhile, I know dudes who make a quarter of what he makes, and they're driving, a 2017 BMW. And it's like, yeah, you can't really afford that. Now, unlike a lot of other financial pros, I ain't going to tell you to not buy Jordans or not buy them labels, because I'm a label whore myself. And so I'll tell you to buy 3 pairs of Jordans, and what you would spend on that 4th pair of Jordans, put in a financial vehicle so you can buy 3 pairs of Jordans every month for the rest of your life. But I'll go ahead and pause. I see we got somebody else up.
Well, good morning, gentlemen, and thank you for allowing me to come up. I'm going to be very brief. I want to answer, and hello to the chat. Let me just say this: don't buy Jordans, buy Skechers. They're just as good and better, actually, and they're less money. Don't worry about Jordans. Trust me when I tell you. Here's the thing: this brother here is definitely thinking outside of the box. Here in Philadelphia, we have a group of those ladies that you're talking about, adult entertainment models, blah, 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 that's what you just said. I love it. And yes, number one, in terms of they have their own businesses set up. We have makeup gurus that do their makeup and everything for them. We have security companies that deal with that whole, we have black female security companies that deal with that whole entire business. And the owners of those businesses understand what what these ladies are to do and what not to do. It's sort of like they have their own union, to be perfectly honest. This is the brother, he's speaking and he's talking outside of the box, and I appreciate it, because they need, number one, they need insurance policies, and they have the cash. They are also doing online. A lot of them are doing online courses, getting degrees, et cetera, so forth and so on. So yes, we've been doing this here in Philadelphia. I don't know about anywhere else, but we've been doing this in Philadelphia for at least 15, almost 20 years. And like you said, they have capital and cash. They're able to purchase lots and land acquisition, not just houses, but land acquisition. And they are doing the doggone thing. So I hear you. You are on the right track. There's a component out there for it. There are people who are doing it. And as I always say in these YouTube streets, I appreciate the fact that Sheed and people like Sheila, Forever Lisa, Watermelon Sugar, and all the rest of the folks have these platforms, because we need to have real serious conversations about some serious things that will be able to help all of us to go and to do an uptick in our financial stability. We have people that need us, and we can help each other. Instead of having conversations about you got to be natural, you got to be this, they're doing this, they're doing that, look what they're doing with this and that, and crying like little babies. We need to come up with solutions. We all have degrees. Everybody has a degree from A, B, C, D, all the way to Z. And guess what? We for some odd reason can't get out of the muck of blaming each other, trying to compete against each other, as opposed to doing what everybody else in the world does, and that's work with each other. You don't think Caucasians wear wigs and all that stuff? Yes, they do. But I don't go around seeing Caucasian men talking about, oh, you need to be natural and all that. I don't see that. You don't think Asian women wear pieces and stuff in their hair? And all, yes, they do. You don't think all these other women suffer with alopecia? Oh, most and definitely they do. The Mediterranean men the Persian men and women that I come across from Jordan, all of that, they have issues. They wear wigs and pieces too, but their men are not telling them, oh, you need to da da da. And they're not doing that. They're saying, when and where's our next check, and when and where's our next business? Just like this brother is talking about here. Bro, only reason why I don't like Jordans is because I knew Michael Jordan from back in the day when he was at North Carolina, University of North Carolina, and I was at North Carolina A&T, and I wasn't fond of him then. So I always pledged that I would never get a pair of Jordans. Never. So I wear Skechers instead. I like the foam readiness of it all. But anyway, thank you, She. Thank you. Thank you for this. This is the topic of conversation. I appreciate y'all. This is what we need to be talking about. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. Happy Palm Sunday. I'm excited. Get these businesses off the ground. We have people in those industries. They're going to be in those industries, some of the most oldest industries ever. And guess what? We need to make sure we make monetize off of it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, y'all. Have a good one.
Before you go, so part of the reason I got into selling life insurance was you mentioned NCANT in North Carolina. Part of the reason I got into selling life insurance, 2008, 3 days before Mother's Day, I got shot 5 times in front of my mother in the Trade 4, aka Winston-Salem. I was right off Peters Creek Parkway.
I know exactly where that is. Wow.
Yeah. And, so, some of my homeboys call me 25 Cent because, I was trying to be a rapper, but I got shot half as many times as 50. That's a little joke, but.
I got you. Oh, wow. Well, bro, thank God that you're still here, and you are definitely here for a reason and a purpose. So I'm thankful to God that you are still here. And yes, continue to think outside the box. Okay.
Thank you.
Right. So, peace out, y'all. I'm going down to the chat.
No doubt. Thanks for coming up. Now, actually, that the young lady just mentioned that, I'm really going to focus on, female adult entertainers because, like I said, I even tried to focus on like young brothers who were unfortunately out there, quote unquote, in the streets or what have you. And the reason I focused on them is because nobody's going to teach our community about this stuff, right? For example, when we look at, and Sheed, you hear me talk about this all the time because you're familiar with my content. But, usually I'll do a live and I'll fire up talking about cocaine cowboys, because one of the things, especially in like rap music, that's really prevalent for at least for the men is we're all apparently the best cocaine salesmen on the planet. And apparently we know how to make cocaine, cook cocaine, bag cocaine, and everything. Unfortunately, we don't seem to know how to operate like the world of organized crime. And if everyone listening right now goes to Google and types in the words Colombian cocaine cartel life insurance, you will find a December 10th, 2002 article from the New York Times and the Moscow Times, and it says new hiding place for drug profits, insurance policies. Because in December 2002, 5 Colombian cocaine cartel members got indicted for hiding $80 million of dirty Colombian cocaine money in life insurance policies. Meanwhile, when I go to the hood and I try to tell dudes about life insurance, they shun it. Now, what ends up happening is this, and a lot of that, again, is the fault of the financial professional, people like me, right? I'm going to take some blame there too. It's our job to go to the hood and teach folks, right? Now, I've been in this industry coming up 13 years. When I started, it was a little different. I didn't have the same knowledge I have. But there's something also that I learned. I started on Wall Street, 100 Broadway. So I was in the mix of things. And a lot of agents won't go to the projects in Harlem. Or one of the biggest projects I used to go to was the Bronx, where the Sex Money Murder Bloods were. And, you know, a lot of agents won't go there because they're afraid of the quote unquote lifestyle in the streets. And, you know, they assume that these people in project buildings don't have a lot of money. Meanwhile, if you look at, you know, things like CPI, the Consumer Price Index, and you look at the largest consumers of things like luxury vehicles, well, it's those same people in the projects. And all it is our priorities. Like the young lady said, get the Skechers instead of the Jordans. Now, personally, I like Jordans just because I don't wear Jordans. I don't know about Jordans, but, you know, I use that because that's something that we can all everybody is familiar with Jordans. But the whole idea is you can actually use the insurance for so much more than what we think it is, right? You can use it as a down payment for a house. If we were taught that it's more than just a check for when we die, prime example, my godson, and you've heard me tell this story before, Sheed, but again, I appreciate you for allowing me to come on your platform and reach a lot of people who I may not have.
Oh, no problem. And I'm gonna drop your link in there too, so everybody can see it. But go ahead.
I appreciate it. My godson, he was born in 2012, and at his baby shower, his father's best friend. Don't get me wrong, he got him an ill gift. He got him the baby Space Jam Jordans. But I got my godson $30,000. What do you think he's going to appreciate more when he's 18 and ready to go to college? No, it won't be the total $30,000 available to him. Maybe it will be about $10,000 available to him. But do you think he's going to appreciate those baby Jordans, which, don't get me wrong, by the time he's 18, those baby Jordans could be worth quite a substantial amount of money, because there are sneaker collectors. So I'm not saying that sneakers aren't possibly an asset, but when I show you on paper, he's guaranteed to have X amount of dollars by 18, not speculative and hope somebody buys them and hope that the Jordans are in good condition and hope you can find them and hope that you get the right buyer at the right time. This is literally an amortization schedule. You see, and when it comes to financial services or finances, especially in the Black community, we hear buzzwords and we think, oh, okay, like generational wealth, it sounds nice, but what does it look like? Like you were saying earlier, Sheed, somebody who gets that 3 million, 10 million, whatever $1 million it was, needs to understand what to do with it, right? In our community, what ends up happening, it stops short. Before I came up with you, I had actually ran into a young man that I was speaking to in weeks in the past about insurance. And he was like, you know what, after church today, I'm going to try and sit with you, da, 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 da. I was like, look, no problem. But he had a question that made a whole lot of sense, because he was explaining that he lost his mother a year and a half ago, and his stepfather he just lost this year. And neither one of them had life insurance. And I was like, are you sure? And I showed him how to find a lost policy, because he said his partner had died as well. And when his partner died, he didn't leave him any, he said, I know he left me life insurance, but I lost the paper and I don't know where to get it. And so I showed him how to actually locate a lost life insurance policy. You see, you'll have things like financial gurus like Dave Ramsey, Sue Zorman, companies like Primerica, who will tell you, buy term, invest the difference. And that would make sense if people actually buy term, invest the difference. What most people do is buy term and spend the difference on Jordans, right? Or a Mercedes-Benz or something that's not going to be an asset. So when you're given this blanket advice, it's very dangerous. You know, just like I could have told the guy who wanted to spend the $50 a week on Dogecoin, I could have got him a lot more life insurance just by selling him a term policy. But he was looking at the price, not the features and benefits. Now, if I told you life insurance was exactly like a Mercedes-Benz, you'd take a little more time and look at the features and benefits, right? Because nobody's going to go to the Mercedes-Benz dealership. And I'm not talking about a buy here, pay here. I'm talking about when you actually go to purchase a Mercedes-Benz from, Mercedes-Benz of Manhattan or BMW of Manhattan or luxury, shit, over by Lenox Mall, right? I'm familiar with Atlanta. So if you're living in like the Dunwoody area, you're probably going to go to, the Benz dealership, Now, if you're living over where I was living in Douglasville, you probably going to the buy here, pay here. But, if you go and you try to get a Mercedes-Benz and you say, listen, Mercedes-Benz dealership, I want a Mercedes-Benz. I just need a car with a 3-point star. Well, obviously, he's going to start off by bringing you the most expensive one, which is an S-Class. Well, technically, it's something like that. But in the regular Benz, he'd bring you an AMG S-Class, AMG 63 S-Class, right? So let's start at $97,000. But you could also get an A-Class that starts at $30,000. I think $34,000 to be exact. They're both Mercedes-Benz. They both have the 3-point star. However, that S-Class is full of features and different buttons and panoramic windows and stars in the ceiling and complete leather and auto tuning and this and that and this and that. You got base model, you got to crank the windows with that $30,000 Benz. Well, you wouldn't spend the money on that Benz because if you get a Benz, you want what comes with the Benz, the features and benefits. So that's the same thing with a life policy. So to look up a life policy, the person has to be deceased, but you would go to the NAIC, National Association of Insurance Commissioners, and you would look for the lost policy finder. It's like forgotten funds. Yeah, so this is actually another very important thing because the buy term invest the difference makes absolutely no sense. Let me tell you guys some actual statistical facts on life insurance. I guess this is going to end up running into my show sheet. I hope you don't mind.
Oh no, you good? Because like I
Alright.
said, this was the funeral, man. So I'm going into that financial and everything so forth.
Okay. So real quick, when we're looking at term insurance, we need to look at the percentage of policies that pay out. So let's look at actually, you know what? I'm going to do my friends who work for Primerica a favor. Since they don't like cash value life insurance, they call it trash value life insurance. So let's go and make some positivity for them. Like I said, I'm far from a Primerican. I'm a real financial advisor, but I don't shame the people who work at Primerica. They just don't understand. Thank you, Lisa. But let's look at trash value life insurance first. And I'm gonna call it trash value too, since I'm gonna jump on the wave with Primerica. Even though I dislike that company, I don't affiliate or associate with them. But they talk about cash value and it not being beneficial for the client. And they have a point there because of the 100% of life insurance policies that are purchased, obviously it's 100%, the statistics show that about 25% of policies purchased actually pay out. And this is cash value life. Well, not just all cash value, but whole life specifically. So only 25% of policies pay out. That's pretty low when you think about how many people actually do have life insurance. That only a quarter of the policies in existence pay out. Now, part of that is because people cancel or lapse their policies when they could do things like a viatical settlement. And I'll get to that later. Big discussions, what's going on? Yeah, no MLM companies over here. But you know me as a financial professional, I like to have an unbiased opinion. And that MLM stuff, if somebody's with an MLM, you really don't want them to do your financial services. Because that's like, imagine you coming to McDonald's buying a burger and then they say, hey, don't you want to come cook these burgers? No, I just want to eat it. But on the flip side, term policies only 1% of term policies ever enforce payout. Usually people either outlive the term or they cancel their policy. And then there's no cash accumulated with it or anything. So it's almost a complete waste. Whereas if you're looking at like the cash value policy, at least some cash does build into it. If you stop paying the premiums, if you have cash value built up, the cash value built up into the policy will actually pay the policy itself. So before we go further, I'm just going to explain that there is no best policy to have. The best policy to have is one that's in force at the time that you need it. So, you know, I've never had a death claim be like, man, I just got this $1 million. I'm mad that that my dad only bought a term policy. Or, you know, I just got this $1 million. Dag nabbit, my dad could have bought a term policy or a whole life policy, and I could have paid less. Nobody cares once they get that $1 million check. They're like, I'm glad my dad thought enough to have life insurance, right? And that's the end all of that. But only about 1% of term policies pay out. So it ends up being lackluster. The reason that a lot of agents push term is because it's easy. It's less likely to have to qualify. You're not going to have to go through what's called suitability. See, suitability as a financial advisor, I have to then, once I submit your application, I have to explain to the state where and why and how I came up with this recommendation for you. Right, I have to explain to the state, and this is whatever state I'm in. And Sheed, you're familiar with this. I had that hiccup where I had to have you re-sign the document because the state was like, "No, we don't want it on one document." So Sheed is a client of mine. He has multiple policies, and so when I delivered the policies to him, I just put it all on one DocuSign document that, instead of having to send 100 emails. Well, the state decided no. You need to have him sign 100 emails because they're separate policies. So we want everything separate. The state of Georgia was like, nope, make him sign it, because this way, if anything happens, you're not on the hook and he's not on the hook. And if something does happen, I'm on the hook because I'm the financial professional. So they wanted to make sure that I explained to my client, these are two separate things. You have two separate things, and he fully understands. So that's why a lot of agents push term. You don't have to go through suitability. They don't have to find out your net worth. They don't have to find out how much money you have liquid, anything about your assets. All they got to do is say, hey, $50,000 is $25 a month. See you later. Insurance agents get insurance agents work off of 100% commission. So we're like dope dealers. We don't make no money until we sell our dope, right? Which is the insurance or the financial product. Right? So a lot of agents are just like, well, screw it. I'm going to sell this dope. These people are going to think they fine, and they're not going to know that they're getting stepped on product. They think it's pure grade A Colombian. I don't know about drugs like that, but I guess that's what I always hear about on TV, is everything is pure grade A Colombian, right? So
I think someone got a question about an older account. I mean, I got some type of information. You can look that up with the lost money with the I think it's like the Secretary of the State or the Treasurer or something like that.
yeah, so that's less on insurance. That's just finding lost money. And it varies by state. But you can literally, for just about every state, go to your Department of Consumer Protection website or Department of Financial Services. And there will be like a link that you can click to find lost money.
Yeah, because I went through that before. I actually crazy. I had filled out the paperwork for that in Georgia, and I ended up had like $150 rebate on a computer I bought a long time ago for my kids. They sent me a check for $150. Yep.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. But go ahead with the insurance.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm saying you can go back with the insurance and talk about that.
All right. So another thing, like I said, term policies are good for what they're good for. But again, a lot of agents are in it for commission and they don't learn the ins and outs, right? So prime example is, like I said, we get paid 100% commission. A lot of these guys who belong to, so the traditional commission is 50%. So whatever you pay for the year, the agent gets half of that once the policy issues. That's all they get. So if you spend $1,000 for the year on your life insurance, that agent gets $500. So, you know, when you hear people, oh, the commission that these agents get, listen, these agents get $0 to come schlep to your house, to be in front of your door, for you to be like, oh, I forgot about the appointment. Well, listen, I just had to spend gas money and time to drive 2 hours to get to your funky ass. You know, and I don't get any dollars for anything. Now, I do get compensated well because I could sit with you for an hour and make $500, right? But still, in all, it's difficult. Now, when you look at these MLM companies, the way that they attract their agents, and it's deceptive, is they promise higher commissions, up to 200%. So you pay $1,000 and they're going to pay me $2,000 for it. That's why people love Primerica. Unfortunately, they have terrible products and they get replaced all the time. But most agents get, if they're with, you know, traditional financial services, they're going to get about 50% commission. So you're going to get half of what you paid for the year. Why that matters? Because a lot of people, especially in stuff like Primerica or people like Sue Zorman and Dave Ramsey, will speak about the commission, but they don't speak about the fact that coming to a financial advisor like myself, we charge you fees. I charge a flat fee to sit down with me of $300. A lot of them charge about $1,200. Right. So I'm on the lower end of fees. But the reason being is because the demographic that I'm looking to go into, which is a majority African-American community, are not familiar with financial advisors. So to see these fees up front, it's kind of scary. Right. Because we're like, well, I don't even know what I'm paying for. I don't quite know what a financial advisor does. And that goes to, like she was saying, you got to prepare your kids so that they understand, okay, maybe not today, maybe it's in another 50 years, but my dad gonna die one day and he's gonna leave me, you know, a bunch of $1 million. When I get this bunch of $1 million, I could go blow it, right? And oh, I'm gonna buy a house. It's great to buy a house as long as it's an asset. But some people, when you get a large sum of cash, oh, you know what? Well, how much is it? $1 million? I got $2 million. $1 million cash. I'm gonna buy it. Boom. And then they don't know it's a money pit and you have to maintain that property and you have to pay taxes annually on that property. And you have to do things like winterize that property. I'm also a licensed real estate agent and I hold my PTIN prepares tax identification number. So I also do prepare taxes in all 50 states. Do I do it often? No, I'm not an enrolled agent, so I can't represent you against the IRS. But I can prepare your taxes. Basically, I just got the knowledge so that when it comes to financial services, I can point you in the right direction. Like I said, my last client, who you introduced me to, he bought a fairly sizable life insurance policy. And he doesn't mind me explaining, he pays $1,000 a month. Now, the company he was with before was New York Life, and they had him paying $1,300 a month. So I saved him about $6,000, $300 a month by getting him from $1,300 to $1,000. But the policy that I have set, even though he's paying less money into it, he's going to be able to get more money out of it in the future. And we were having a conversation, and he was like, I feel good because I'm getting stuff set up, but I'm just waiting for the inevitable fall. And I explained to him, I said, here's where you're different from a lot of guys. That inevitable fall is going to be cushioned because you planned in advance. So you've got this money set aside. Like I said, he put $250,000 away with me, right? Just one fell swoop, boom, $250,000. This, ironically enough, was on the 7th. So the day I got the award for selling the most annuities, I then put in another $250,000 worth of an annuity. An annuity is a retirement account. But a lot of these agents, and as long as ain't no questions, or Sheet, if you got anything to say, I know you don't have a problem jumping in. So I apologize, y'all. It may be, I know I'm rambling, and I know I go all over the place, but I gotta give this knowledge. And I have a dynamic position because I was, quote unquote, I was Pookie and Ray Ray, if you will, right? But I'm reformed. I've learned. I've grown. 5 bullets will do that. But I realized that, especially in our community, they don't teach us none of this. So how are we supposed to really get that generational wealth or that financial freedom that we want? You see, most agents are, like I said, they're just going to come in, they're going to get their commission, but they're not going to know about the ins and outs of the different types of policies that are available for you that may best fit your need. Right? Because at the end of the day, if you buy a policy, I get paid. So I don't care what you buy, as long as you buy something. Right? It's term, permanent. I don't care. Universal, index universal, variable universal. Second to die, joint survivor, irrevocable trust, buy-sell agreement, key man policy, simple employee pension. Oh, these are all life insurance policies. You didn't know you can start a pension with a life insurance policy, did you? You didn't know that you can use your life insurance policy as a retirement account because, see, there's a maximum that you can put in your 401k, which is $20,500 as of this year. Well, if you overfund an IUL, like she talks about, you can actually put unlimited amounts. So why would I limit myself to $20,500 for a retirement account when, let's say, I want to put $30,000 a year in? Well, I can set up a life insurance policy that builds cash value that I put $30,000 a year in. And I'm not using it to die. I'm using it to live, because there is, like I said, when it's an illustration, and you should be careful if someone calls themselves a financial coach or a life insurance or a financial advisor, and they tell you they're going to give you a quote on insurance. Financial professionals do not give quotes. A quote is for car insurance, right? We give you an illustration. It's a hypothetical illustration because it's almost an investment, because the life insurance policy becomes a contract, a legally binding contract. So we give you an illustration that is hypothetical based on the numbers that we give you at that moment. But you have to understand, life insurance actually ties to things like the S&P 500. So there are interest rates that are on these things. And I just realized that the folks that we have in this chat probably aren't bored with this, because it's all adults who are doing things like paying bills. And we want to figure out a way to make life a little more comfortable. Maybe not easy, but a little more comfortable. And I think, stuff like this can actually help. So definitely when I go live, I was going to speak a lot to the men's topics, and I still am, because as men, we can plan for our futures, right? We can actually do what's necessary to make things happen, man.
Yeah.
Real simple. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Let me break in for. I wanted to tell you, man, congratulations to you also about winning that award, man. Because like I said, it's a good
Thank you.
achievement that you actually helping people and setting the standard to actually helping them take care of their personal life. That's why I
Thank
said
you.
when I had got the guy that Marty to reach out to you. That's why I was telling him alone. I was like, hey, talk to Alonzo, weigh your options, because just like I did my policy with you, like I said, I was ready to go because I already did my research. I knew what you was about. I watched your channel. I seen how in depth you were with the things that you went through and talked about. So I was like, it's not even a given not to even deal with you, because it's not like, well, it's an iffy moment or something that, well, maybe he's gonna do this or maybe he's gonna do that. I don't know if he's gonna do this. I don't know if he's gonna do that. You were actually on point to the T. And that was one of the biggest things that I was, in regard when I look at with my family, like you said, if something do happen to me, your number's in my phone. My kids can reach out to you and say, well, unfortunately, my dad passed or something happened to him, and these are the necessary arrangements that we can talk about, this and that, or, unfortunately, I want to change up some things on my policy. So what are my options? That's like one of the biggest things that a lot of people, that relationship, because remember back in the day, that's what the insurance guy did. They came to your house. You had a
Hmm.
personal relationship. I think he was telling them before that one of your family members dealt with life insurance and how they would, help people with their policies until they got back on their feet, because the biggest thing, not just helping them with their policies, because, it's a lot of times we go through situations we don't have the money and to where it's good there's someone you can count on. That's
Yeah.
one of the biggest things that, the community lacks right now is that accountability. That it was funny. There's a quick story. There's a situation that happened with my brother. So I was needing some money and my brother never came through in a clinch. And this was his moment to shine. And he was actually going to send me the money. Going to the Western Union to send me money, I was out of town. Going to the Western Union to send me the money, the guy got arrested because walking around with a bottle of liquor hanging out his back pocket, and he was walking on a side street right in front of the Western Union. The bad part was, the cop just felt like picking on him that day. Wasn't doing anything wrong. You just walking. Might have been, he might have been drunk or he might have been staggering or something, but he had the bottle poking out the back of his pocket, in which officer said, hey, you know. And it was a situation where I counted on him for that. That was the only person I can call at the time because everybody else was unavailable. Either they wasn't answering their phone, and after that, everybody started answering their phones then. But it was just to the point that that was the only person I could depend on at that moment, and it didn't come through in the clinch. And and that's the whole thing. Even with this life insurance, when a situation happens, you focusing on the family. You got a lot going on, and then knowing that that money's there, it gives you a sense of relief than to not shaming the people that do GoFundMe's and all that, but they have to hustle, they have to put this stuff together, and then they're hoping and wishing that somebody actually donate. The point is, even if they don't donate, it's like, oh, like it's a situation for them. It's a really a situation for them. So, I commend you on that. And like I said, I appreciate you, what I'm saying, for all the work you do, even with the award, man, you deserve it. That's why
Thank
I
you.
say I always big up your name, man, because, you know, like I said, that's one of the big things in the part of me changing with my channel was the financial side. No one talks about the planning. No one, we're not having a discussion in our house about the future. We talk about, in a couple of months I want to buy this, or in a couple of years, even to the point of buying a house. That's I had one of my good friends on here. He's a real estate agent. You know, like I said, I didn't know that you could buy a house FHA and then turn around and buy another one.
With
FHA.
FHA.
You
Hmm.
know, it's like the whole thing. People we don't know. You just go FHA one time and you think, well, I only could do it one time. I can't buy. Yeah, it's just FHA means you didn't have the 20% to put down on the house. It's like lack of knowledge. You don't know, so you can't spread the wealth. But go ahead and continue, man. I just want to break that down and give you your flowers about that award because, like I say, congratulations, man. You deserve it.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you. A lot that it means a lot that I was actually able to help families and help folks. And then it's cool because you make money while doing it. So you know, that's always a positive. Um, but in terms of the planning, man, it's it's terrible because I look at the way agents are trained, and I look at things like advertisement, and it really skews the way that the average person consumes these products. They don't even consider them products. So I'll give you a brief story. This actually has to do with car insurance. I used to own an Allstate in East New York. I had to close it down. I wasn't making enough money doing it, so I had to shut down the business. It happens. But I also then I came to Connecticut, and I was doing car insurance with State Farm, and I had a client, young lady from Bridgeport, who was on the car insurance with her mother, and she had just got a new car, and they was always late on their policy, so I was always calling them, and it wasn't really their fault. If you guys like car insurance, my favorite color is blue, but State Farm is probably one of the best companies in terms of their coverage, but they suck in terms of customer service and their computer systems. They have antiquated systems, and they'd rather spend more money on a commercial with Drake and Aaron Rodgers than they spend on their back office making sure that you can accept payments properly. So things like we take a payment and then the entire company is a month behind. So you as the client keep getting called by me, the agent, saying, hey, you're late on your policy. And you don't think you are because you're on auto pay. And technically you're not, but the company just billed you a month late and it's their fault. But you shouldn't have to deal with that. But other than that, State Farm is a really solid company for their car insurance products. But at any rate, while I was talking to this young lady, I was the life insurance specialist in the agency. So my job was to sell life insurance, and I sell big numbers. Like most of the time, I don't want to give you less than $1 million, even if you're working at McDonald's for minimum wage. And I'll explain that later. And I realized the time, so I got to make it quick. But so the young lady, I scheduled for her to come to my office on a Saturday so we could talk about life insurance. She was young. She was 20 something. Her mother was like 50. She was 20 something. She was just getting her life started and, trying to establish herself. So she's got this car. She's paying the car note. She's paying the car insurance. And I'm talking to her and I was like, well, listen, now that we got you scheduled to come in and talk about life insurance, I really would like to talk to you about your coverages that you have on your car insurance. She's like, I'm not worried about it. I got full coverage. Full coverage is not full coverage, ladies and gentlemen. When the agent tells you full coverage, what they are doing is they are telling you we are just looking out for the bank. So full coverage means that you have comprehensive and collision coverage. That's not true full coverage. See, true full coverage would be things like new car replacement, loss of use, personal injury protection, right? Medical payments. So that goes further into what I was saying with the young lady. She decided, no, I don't want to talk about it. So then Thursday, I get a phone call from her. Ironically enough, I thought it was about her bill. I was like, don't worry about it. I know you used to getting a call at least once a week about the bill. You're coming in Saturday. I was going to address it then with you. She said, well, no, I need to put in a claim. I was just in a car accident. So I'm like, okay, I help her put in the claim. Da, 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 da. Phone call ends. I figure I go on about my day. About 2 hours later, I get another phone call. It's from the same young lady. She's like, I'm here at the hospital and they keep asking for payment and they keep asking about something called medical payments. I told them I got full coverage car insurance and they keep asking about something called medical payments. And I explained, well, yes, you do have full coverage for the car. So if something happens to the car, the insurance company will cut a check that usually goes to the bank, they'll send you the check. They'll put it in your name, John Smith, and then you go to the car dealership where you bought the car and you give them that, $32,000 or whatever it is. Now, new car replacement is where they would actually replace that car up to, I think it's 5 model years from the year. Some companies go out to 7. I think Liberty Mutual actually goes out to 7. So you could have like a 2014 and 2021 and still be okay with a new car replacement. But most companies, it's got to be 5 years newer, 5 years or newer, and you can get new car replacement. But anyway, so she's like, well, they keep telling me something about medical payments because like it's like $1,500 for an aspirin and they got to do all these tests and stuff. And I explained to her, well, if you had true full coverage or the medical payments on your policy, then the car insurance company would pay the medical payments for your injuries. But unfortunately, now that she's had the accident, it's not something you can add retroactively. The next thing I want to talk about is paycheck insurance. And again, I know I'm jumping around. I'm trying to jam as much stuff in here as I can. If anybody got questions, make sure you shoot them. You can feel it free to shoot in any time. Other than that, I'm gonna keep going.
And let me say right quick, next on the live-a-thon for the people that are on here, we're having a live-a-thon for the people that, don't know, just in on, shout out to Sheila and Dobie. They have a live-a-thon to where, Alonzo, you're at 11:15 on your channel, but next will be Pretty Saucy Leo. She'll be at 11, and she's gonna be having her discussions and talking about things, and then you're coming up after her. So just letting everybody know next in the live-a-thon. I have her channel up there that's highlighted with Sheila, and it's showing her link. Sheila, could you also put that down? Because, like I said, 11 o'clock, she'll be up next.
I just subbed.
Okay.
So actually, I see here there's a question I'm gonna try to answer from Arlene Cameron. She says, are you legally allowed to take out insurance on an adult child without them knowing? So that's a great question. And that's kind of an up in the air one. You can take out insurance on a juvenile up to age 14 and a half without their consent. Once they are 15, they have to sign for it. So you'll actually need to get their consent to purchase that policy on a child who's 15 years or older. Now, you can legally get a policy on a child as soon as they are 15 days old. And the reason for that restriction is because of SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. So they require the child to be alive for at least 14 days because things do happen, unfortunately. Hey, maybe the kid is born with, a hole in their heart. So you put a policy on them because they're going to die in 48 hours and boom. Well, that's why they wait the 14 days. You also legally, when you're putting a policy on a child, the owner, generally the parent or a grandparent or whoever's purchasing the policy, depending on your state, and I am resident licensed in the most restricted state possible. So that's the state of New York. Because in New York, in order to be in the insurance field, you have to be a financial advisor because you have to do full fact finders. You have fiduciary responsibility, and you act in the full capacity of a financial advisor by taking risk tolerance, etc. So I tend to geared towards the strictest state's rules. So in the state of New York, but generally across the country, the owner of a juvenile policy or the purchaser needs to have at least double what they're purchasing for the child. So if you're getting the child a $100,000 policy, you have to have at least $200,000 worth of life insurance on yourself. Or you have to be uninsurable. So you have to be in a situation where the insurance company declines giving you life insurance. And then they'll say, well, you kind of can't legally have it. So there's that loophole. You'll also, if, for example, like I said in the example of my godson, where I purchased the policy and pay for it, but I am not the owner of that policy. The owner of that policy is his mother and father, and the beneficiary of that policy is his mother and father. So they make the decisions on that policy. Also, I had to get the parents' consent to purchase the policy. So even though you can get it without the kids' consent, you still got to get the parents' consent. Now, there's a lot of companies that will do things fly by night around the back and loophole and not follow a lot of those laws. And those are usually the shitty policies that are going to be with, MLM sort of companies. So hopefully that will answer that question for you. And I'm just looking at the chat, see if there's any other questions. Let me see here. Somebody said Chris Paul.
Yeah, we got a couple of minutes before Pretty Saucy Leo get ready to come on. Let's pretty much, let's see. Because in my opinion, running down just in quick, simple form, the benefits, because, I always say getting a whole policy is better, because not only can you get the whole policy and use the benefit far as, in my opinion, I always talk about the being the bank for yourself, because a lot of people tend to not know that, you can actually get the whole policy, put money into it, and over time take money out to benefit yourself far as, loans, quick emergency money and stuff like that. The money is there specifically for that.
Oh yeah. Well, that's so life insurance, when it's cash value, is an asset. So let me preface it by this, right? Because I think people got to know the difference between term and whole, right? So when you got term, you've got more than just one type of term, right? So you've got term, which is what 10, 20, 30-year policy. Then you've got decreasing term, which is the same thing, 10, 20, 30-year policy, but the face amount or the death benefit decreases. You would get that, for example, if you get a mortgage, right? You buy a house in January 2022, it's $1 million, you get $1 million worth of life insurance. In January 2052, the house is paid off, so you don't need that life insurance anymore. So it's $0 worth of life insurance and the policy is done. But as you went on halfway through, it was only $500,000 because you had $500,000 worth of debt. They've got increasing term where the face amount increases over time. So you start off with $1 million and then you end up, 30 years later with $10 million worth of coverage. It gets more expensive over time. Then you have return of premium term, which in my opinion, if you're going to get term, is the best term to get, because return of premium, you actually get all of the money that you paid over the course of that term back. Now, when you're looking at whole life, you've got a multitude of permanent policies or cash value. So they don't tell you, but like that guaranteed issue, that Alex Trebek thing, right? Colonial Penn and all them, that's a whole life policy. But those are trash value because they're not going to build cash value a lot, and they're built for older people. Then you've got a traditional whole life, which generally grows at a compound interest rate of 2% minimum. Okay, it's actually 3%, and it was lowered from 4% thanks to Joe Biden and IRC 7702, which is Internal Revenue Code 7702. But the way that then you've got you've got variable whole life, which is completely tied to the stock market, but it's life insurance as well. Then you've got what I prefer, which is universal life. Then you've got variable universal life. And then you've got my favorite and your favorite, which is index universal life. So when you're looking at cash value, the best of the best is an index universal. That's like getting an S-Class Mercedes, or that's like getting a Maybach Mercedes, right? So there's living benefits. If you get sick or injured, you can actually get up to 75% of the cash straight out. In terms of it being tax free, you can actually use the money in the life insurance policy for other things like a down payment on a house, which is why when I speak to young guys who say stupid stuff like, well, why would I get a policy now at 20 versus wait until I'm 40? Because it's going to be 20 years more expensive. But for the same thing, but now with more wear and tear on it, because you're the product you're actually purchasing. Right? When you're purchasing life insurance, all you're doing is buying money, literally, and you can buy it for yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
And that's also too like what I think about inflation. So that's why I'm on the hunt for the $1 million, because like I said, due to the inflation, $1 million 10 years ago is not the same $1 million as now.
it's not.
And back in the day when houses were going for $5,000 and $10,000, cars were going for, like I say, let's take for instance, back in the I think 60s, 70s, cars were going for like $5,000 and $10,000. Houses were going for less than $50,000, $60,000. You get $100,000 house, that was a mansion, compared to now. And now cars are upwards of $100,000, and houses, on the low end, if you get a house for $100,000, it's like getting a bucket car. I mean, you're gonna have a lot of things that you can fix on it, possibly make money in the future, but you're gonna have to take that time and invest in that money, because let's say you get a house for $100,000, it needs a roof, it might need plumbing, it might need carpet or whatever. But over time you fix that house, and especially depending on the area, that house can be a $300,000 to $600,000 house. But you got to put in that money and have that money set aside for it. So that's what I'll be talking about when regards as far as the money wise. You thinking about the future, you're gonna need more money. Even what you talk about with retirement funds, with the elderly, start looking into that. Building money, putting money aside. The best thing to do is actually, instead of putting money into a savings account, if you put $50 a week in put it in a life insurance. Yeah, you won't be able to touch it, but that's the amazing thing, because it forces you not to go in there and grab certain money that you actually don't need to touch. Of course, you can have other assets and stuff set aside, but this is the money that you don't need to touch for a specific reason.
Let me jump in there right quick.
Go ahead.
And then I'm gonna let you keep going. The bank account, actually the forced savings account, you actually, after, depending on how you set up, after about 2 years, you can actually start touching that money. So no, you can't touch it immediately, but if you saving money, saving for 2 years isn't terrible. And then everybody, I actually just want y'all to do this, because she mentioned something that I always tell y'all. If y'all go to Google and Google high yield savings account or best money market account, you will find that it is with Marcus Millichap, which is Goldman Sachs, and they give you a walloping 0.5% APR, which means they give you half of 1%, which means that if you put $100 in a bank account with Goldman Sachs, you need to let it sit there from today, April 10th, 2022, until April 10th, 2023, for that $100 to earn you 50 cents. On the flip side, like she is saying, even if you put it in a regular whole life policy, it grows at a minimum compound interest rate of 2%. So that same $100 in a life insurance policy, April 10th, 2022, turns into $102 May 10th, 2022. So people, I ask, would you rather $2 a month or 50 cents a year? And you could go ahead, She.
Yeah, but yeah, that's it. I mean, we're gonna get ready to go over here in pretty saucy Leo's channel, and then
His chat
you'll be
already
up
popping.
next. Yeah, 'cause it's 11 o'clock. Hey, time flies when you're having fun.
I see.
Hey, I can say time flies when you making money or talking about making money. So that's the motivation, man. So we're gonna go ahead and go over to her channel. That is highlighted up here at the top for a lot of people that's in the chat. We're gonna go over and go over her channel, and she's the next up in the live-a-thon, and then Alonzo got you at 11:15. So
Yep.
shout out to Sheila, Adobe, everybody that's putting this live-a-thon together. Uh, Forever Lisa, you too as well. And a lot of people are gonna start joining this. I mean, this is something that a lot of guys we've been talking about in the making, but it's just the point of people not getting together and actually making it work. Enough of the talking. Let's go ahead and just put the feet down and start running with it. So, like I said, any last words before we get ready to go over there, Alonzo?
You already know me. When people challenge you, they don't challenge you to challenge you, but they challenge you to challenge you. Accept the challenge. Salute.
All right, and like I said, we're about to get ready to go here. Like I said, the link is right up here. It's highlighted. I'm gonna go ahead and drop it down here at the bottom in the last of the comments for the people, so they can go ahead and go over there. All right, let me drop it one more time. Bam. There's the link right here. It's already set up. Have the link already over here. And so everybody just go ahead, and we're gonna start heading over now. I'm gonna go ahead and leave it up for the last few remaining people to actually see the link. All right. So like I said, everybody in the chat, go ahead over there. The link is down here at the bottom. And we're gonna keep moving with the next with the live-a-thon. She's actually about to go live now. Okay, she is live.
We're gonna have this food shortage, but it's good to have things prepped and ready just in case. But thanks everybody for coming. We're gonna talk about the vegetables.
All right, so she's already live. Like I said, I'm gonna leave it up for a few minutes for people to get the link. Go ahead and come over there, hit the like button, thumbs up the video. She's gonna be having a good discussion. Everybody needs to come over and join. Like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and drop the link one more time for her channel. So everybody can go ahead and get over here and check out the discussion. All right, got about 8 more people still in here. Go ahead and get over there, hit that like button, and go over there. We're gonna be having a good discussion. I'm not even gonna break down. We're looking at it. I'm looking at it right now on another device. And the last few people that's still in the chat, go ahead and get ready to go over there to Pretty Saucy Leo channel so she can have her discussion. She's next in the live-a-thon. And Lonzo, who was just on here, he's right after her. So you're gonna get a double dose of more information. He's gonna give you more pointers and incentives on life insurance and financial decisions. Yep, everybody come over and hit that like button. All right, I'm about to get ready to close this out. Like I said, I left the video up for 2 minutes. And, like always, you know what I say. We here and we gone.